no matter where you go, no matter what you do, take that Maui style with you. Cause if you ain't Maui styling, you just living on an island. Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 There is sunshine in your heart. It's been with you from the start. Lift your head, look to the heavens, then you will feel brand new again. Don't stop me now, Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 Reach out your hand and help each other. Your mother, your father, your sister and brother. There is love in this family. Pick yourself up and get on your feet. Don't stop me now, Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 Makena styling, up country styling, Campo styling, Kahana Valley styling, Hana styling, Waihu styling, Bahia styling, Keanai styling. Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 Maui styling, Maui styling, don't stop me now. Maui styling.
Aloha! Welcome to my home. Come on in. Let's talk story.
Welcome to another Up Close and Personal. Here we are in 2008, and we have the Maui County elections. And Maui County Council candidates, as you all know, I'm sure, are voted on no matter where they reside by all of Maui County. So if you're on Lanai or Molokai or anywhere in Maui, and you like my guest, you can vote for her. You know who my guest is? This is Netra Halperin. Aloha.
Thank you very much, Jason, for inviting me on your show.
Welcome. You are a candidate for the Kahului seat, which
That's
means
true.
you reside in Kahului, but you represent all of Maui County, right?
That is true.
Now, we are going to have a different format because I want you to get a little bit closer to her. So we're going to change the camera and do our interview where you're a little bit closer and you can get to see exactly how she's feeling right from a better perspective, okay? So watch this. The magic of television. So Netra, I am very happy to have you here with us. What made you passionate about wanting to run for county council?
Well, my background is in social work. I have worked for Maui Youth and Family Services, Aloha House, Women Helping Women, Children's Mental Health. I was a substitute teacher in the schools. And I've seen a lot of problems in Maui. And I can work at the microcosm level, which is work with the families, but I wasn't seeing things change enough. I was seeing that families were still having the same problems and that something needed to be done on a bigger level, on a systemic level of the county. So I wanted to take that knowledge and skill I have of the microcosm of the family and spread it out to the macrocosm of the county, of the whole county of Maui.
So then, on your way in here, you have a couple of specific issues that you want to be championed for, or anything specific that you want to address in your first term?
Well, of course, affordable housing, that's a really important issue. There are several developers who have wanted to do affordable housing projects, but they haven't gotten them through council. And they are trying to do those projects, but the council is saying, well, you can't do it because of this reason and that reason. Sometimes, like I have one friend who wanted to do a small little $300,000 development, not cheap, but certainly a lot better than, you know, $500,000-600,000 that properties are being sold for now, and then his neighbors didn't want a subdivision near them. So sometimes people have the good intentions, have the right intentions, and then they're blocked. And another thing that's actually making the price of housing be higher is the permitting process itself. For instance, this isn't about housing, but just generally building. The Maui Community Clinic has purchased O'Oka's supermarket, the old O'Oka's supermarket in Wailuku,
Right.
and that's 36,000 square feet, and they want to put a clinic in there, and it's been a year and they still haven't gotten their permit. So all those good things that could have come from having a clinic right there, a huge community clinic right there in the middle of Wailuku, have been stopped by the planning department and the public works and the permitting process. So I would like to streamline that process. And also, if it's for housing, time is money. So if a developer is spending lots of time on debt servicing for the property and lots of consultants, then they're a business. They're going to pass that on to the consumer. They're going to pass that on to the homeowner. So I think we need to streamline that, get in a central coordinating committee that deals with public works, with planning, with water, with fire, and make it streamlined and organized. So that would be another thing that I think would help with that a lot.
Okay. Now you talked about both sides of the issue, which is true. One is the permitting takes a longer time, and the other is the people in the area don't want it. So it would be nice to get a little bit of, what do we say, a lay of the land of where things can be done and people stick to it. Around here we create a general plan and then we change it because things
Right.
change.
Right.
So that idea of giving a master plan for a long time,
Right.
I'm sure that's yet another stage of this planning.
Right.
So have you ever worked in a government kind of a situation like this? I guess you're working, like you say, with women helping women in different groups.
Right.
Have you ever been in an administrative council kind of a thing where you make rules?
I haven't been in a rulemaking capacity. As you said about government, I did work for Children's Mental Health, and at that position I was a case manager, so I'm familiar with the government and how that works.
I would say that you're perfect for this council because the thing that is very clear, as I see it, is everyone comes in with limited experience and they get on-the-job training. So coming in with good ideas and good attitude and playing together good in the sandbox is a good thing. You know, I don't want to name names, but some people play well with others and can get things done if they have a good idea, and others have good ideas and they don't seem to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So you've had the experience of working with others on a what do they say, a hands-on kind of basis.
Yes, because in social work we have lots of committees where there's, you know, social services and, you know, maybe the person needs drug abuse treatment, and then they have, you know, on-the-job training, that there's a lot of different input to each case and you have to work together with that. So that's really important. And, you know, all the people that are on council now, I mean, one never knows who's going to be next, but I get along with everybody. I don't agree necessarily with everybody's stand, but that's politics. You're not going to agree. But yeah, it definitely is. I agree with you. It's about getting along and learning how to see both sides. And I think, actually, I see that's what a lot of what this job is there's going to be all the sides. There's going to be the environmentalists on one side, the developers on one side, the Hawaiians on one side, the Filipinos on the other side. And a lot of times what I'm seeing, which is really sad, is that people think they have disparate goals, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they actually do. One person has to give and take. But sometimes they're imagining that this other group is going to take something from them, whatever it may be, and it isn't necessarily true. So I think more communication. I believe in more community forums and actually listening to what those people say. And I've gone to, a lot of the GPAC meetings lately. I've gone to a lot of the Lawmakers Listen and the community meetings, and I listen to what people are saying. And that's what I would continue to do in office is I would be, open door policy, and I would want to hear what the citizens are saying, because some things I can see and some things, I can't know everything about every detail of every community, so I would want to know. And you mentioned an issue before about the general plan, and like I said, I have been attending the general plan meetings, sometimes testifying, sometimes listening to what testifiers and what the committee itself is saying. And this next council would be reviewing the general plan, so that would be within my job. And I think that is really important, as you said, to get a general plan that the community as a whole agrees to, and then sticking with it.
It makes planning easier when it gets to the building department.
Yes.
When they know what's going on, and
Right.
like you say, and stick to it.
Right.
Isn't that always the biggest thing that happens? People don't stick to the plan they made. They're always making exceptions, and
Right.
and it confuses everybody, I think, in the process.
And I think the key then is to make a plan that does have flexibility in it. And so, for instance, with the rural growth boundaries, right now they've only been given urban growth boundaries, even though I think it is in the statute that rural growth boundaries need to be included. And in the rural areas, such as Haiku, Makawao, a little bit maybe Paia, they do want some growth. People do want some growth. Now the way is to make sure that it's not too much growth and it's the right kind of growth. Because to me it's not just about where and how much, it's what kind of growth. For instance, there is a planning model that I really like called the Village Mixed Use Plan and the traditional neighborhoods. And if you go back in time in Maui, we had the plantation camps, and each camp had its, residential, it had its stores, it had, there was even a hospital in Paia, it had all those things. And I'm not saying everything has to be localized, but more localized. I think people are enjoying that more. There's more sense of community. Now that gas prices have gone up so much, people want to be able to have that option of being able to stay in their neighborhoods, work in their neighborhoods. And so not everybody is, the bedroom communities and then everybody drives to town. And, that's a lot of time and energy. It's, harming the environment until we can get renewable energy cars. And it's just not creating the community that I think we want. And so I think that's a good thing. And the General Plan Advisory Committee is looking at having clear and distinct areas with green belts between them, and also maybe community gardens, and just creating more of a sense of community. I think that's really important.
I got you. What about water? I mean, I'm going to bring up subjects I don't expect. Let me share, and I think our audience needs to know it too. I don't expect, nor should any of us, expect someone that's coming on to council to be up on all the issues. That would be great, and some of the candidates have special areas that they're, have a background in. Any things that are going on here, we've got problems with water. We have problems with vacation rentals or no vacation rentals. We have issues, like you say, with building affordable housing. We have all kinds of things. Any other issues that you think are important that you want to bring up that you would like to have a solid hand in?
Well, starting with water, the Navaeha aquifer, I think definitely the county should actually condemn that. I think...
Where is that one?
Okay, that's the four streams.
So in other words, the four streams here
the four streams
that
here
now
in
feed
Central
most
area
of the water to the whole island.
Right. And right now, Wailuku Water Company did put forward a request to the PUC to sell that water as a public utility. And I think there was maybe 80 testifiers. It went late. And everybody was against it, between Office of Hawaiian Affairs, Earth Justice, the County of Maui itself, and all the people that lived on the stream flow, on the stream just below where it was being diverted, who couldn't grow taro anymore. I was going to say the fish, they didn't actually testify, but there were people that were very concerned about the wildlife, the fish, the
Some of the
streams and
fish
so on.
did testify.
Some of the fish you remember, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I know that taro farmers in Iao were telling me that when they started their season, they had water, and suddenly they don't have any more water.
Right,
So I know it's a
right.
big issue.
And it's diverted, and I think things aren't fair. Everybody that's on the land needs to get their fair share, but it wasn't being done fairly. And there's pretty much consensus. There was only two people who testified for it. One was the owner of the company himself, and one who said that he worked for Maui Tropical Plantation and all those workers, but I met one of the workers subsequently and he didn't even know anything about it. So I would say that definitely, I think the previous administration actually did put money aside to condemn that property, and that needs to go forward. So I think we definitely need to get the water back into the streams. And then for water, other issues in water, I think reclamation is really good. For the big plants, we can do as much as we can, but the expense with water reclamation is the transporting back and forth. So I think we could put money into that as we have the funds, but where it makes the most sense and is the easiest is with the new subdivisions. That it's actually, I've talked at great length to the head of wastewater, Dave Taylor, and it's definitely going to be the easiest to do in the new subdivisions, so that it's a small local system that is just going around and around. And then the people that would be installing those systems are people that used to work for wastewater. So they're educated, they know the rules, they're very trained in their field. So that would be one thing. Conservation. And I don't mean just the county saying, use less water to people, but actually having a systematized person going around and making sure, for instance, the state and the county sprinklers, that they're facing the right direction. We are watering a lot of side rocks and roadways, on the Mokulele. We're watering in the middle of the day. Any landscaper will tell you, you don't water in the middle of the day. When it's going to evaporate, you water at night. So just lots of different steps. More catchment, I would say that would be both for homeowners, especially in the upcountry rainy areas, and also the large landowners in those areas. So more catchment. Allowing gray water in certain jurisdictions. They have a person who's the gray water enforcement person, and that person makes sure that the gray water, everything is being done properly, but especially in rural areas and in Kahului for lawns, for irrigation. There's a lot of brown lawns in Kahului, and we could just use our gray water and maybe give some education about what types of things what kinds of soaps are good, don't pour turpentine down your sink.
I just want to be sure. So I just want our audience to know what gray water is. That's water that's been used once, that's now been processed, and you may not want to drink it, but you can use it for what?
Irrigation.
For irrigation and planting and all like that. Gotcha. Okay.
Well, yeah, but it hasn't necessarily been processed. I mean, it would go maybe through a filter,
Yeah.
but it's not a plant. It's just in a normal household. So basically washing, showers, washing machines. And so, like I said, the main issue in that would be make sure to get good soap that's not going to be toxic to your lawn. But it's more for, lawns and, vegetable gardens, maybe not. I wouldn't say vegetable gardens, especially lettuce, because that would go against the Food Safety Act. But for lawns, where you're just going to...
Where we use so much of the water now
Yeah.
that if we had an alternative stream of water, we wouldn't be using at the tremendous rate we're at.
Exactly.
So, have you been out on the campaign trail going door to door? Have you hear issues from people? What is in their moods these days? What's going on out there?
Well, it depends on where I am. When I was up in Makawao at the Upcountry Fair, I would approach people and say, what is the number one issue in Maui? And I'd say almost 90% of those people said water. And so upcountry, it's water. I'd say in South Maui, people talk about infrastructure, people talk about jobs, people talk about commuting. A lot of the people in the central area commute either to Wailea, McKenna, or up to Kaanapali. And so for people here, the issue is, especially the people commuting up to Kaanapali, is that road. I mean, it's a long road and it's windy. Well, that's always going to be that way. It's insecure. There could be an accident, there could be traffic, and people can't continue. And so that, I definitely support the Lahaina bypass. I know the previous administration, they put, they had an agreement with, what was the name of that subdivision? Pulehua.
Okay.
Anyway, they had agreed to give $40 million for a park assessment. That $40 million could purchase all the land along the Hanopi'ilani coastline to put in a road. It wouldn't necessarily build the road, but it would purchase that land as a park, and that would be in perpetuity. That means we would leave the homes that are there, of course, but we would not be building more homes. So it would be for the people, and people could enjoy it, and it would be an awesome, beautiful park. So that would certainly make it more beautiful, and then also we need to get the road built, as I said. Also, we need to make sure with the general plan that we have transportation corridors. If anybody is watching what's going on Oahu, they want to put in a light rail, but now it has to go through all these neighborhoods where people are living, where there's commercial. It would have to relocate people out of their homes and businesses, and it would cost the taxpayers a lot of money. So it's definitely not the way to go. We could put a transportation corridor in the general plan now, and then we would be assured that that land was ready when we had the funds to build a light rail. Because light rail is an excellent thing. It's not very loud, it's not polluting, it uses a very, just this much space for the rail. It's a very streamlined, nature-friendly, environmental-friendly mode of transportation, and if a large percentage of commuters or tourists were on the light rail, then we wouldn't have to have so many cars on the road.
Well, it's an interesting subject. Believe it or not, I'm going to tell you a secret that you probably don't know. When I ran in 1994, I was talking. So it's only 15 years later. So it's time we did some of these things that we all talk about.
Yeah.
It's so nice to hear. It's a little disappointing, but it's nice to hear that you're still interested and vital about these very important subjects, because we've got to buy the land before it gets so prohibitive. We have no solutions.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Exactly.
It's like what's happened with our beaches, where we didn't buy them when they were cheaper, and now we get this little sliver, and we can get to the beach.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
crazy.
Exactly. So there's still time. There is still time on Maui to keep a beautiful island, and it's just planning. It's just foresight and planning, and so that's really important. The other issue you mentioned was vacation rentals. Now with vacation rentals, to me there are two separate sort of subgroups. There's bed and breakfast, which means where the owner lives on properties, and then there's transient vacation rental where somebody doesn't live on the property. So I'm going to talk about bed and breakfast first. I actually think that's a very good way for people to be able to afford their mortgages, stay in their homes, stay home, take care of children, take care of kapuna, take care of, let's say they had a small farm. It allows people to stay at home, not get on the roadways, and it actually encourages people to make their yards more beautiful, and in the case of small farming, it encourages them to do small farms or to have even a subsistence farm, because if they had to go into town to work, there's not that incentive, there's not that time in their day. But if they have a little bed and breakfast, tourists are going to be impressed. Oh, look at the bananas and the mangoes and the pineapples, and the anthuriums and the heliconias. So that's a good way to actually put together economy and the environment, because so many times they contradict each other, but in this case they actually work together. And many countries in South America that are third world are using that as a way to get themselves out of poverty but not overdevelop and keep themselves still beautiful. So I think bed and breakfasts are a good idea, and the money stays in the economy. Actually, it circulates 7 times. So there was one study done that said that approximately up to $319 million is brought in every year with vacation rentals. That's actually B&Bs and TVRs. Now, if you take that spending, let's say somebody has a bed and breakfast in Haiku. The visitor comes, gives money, let's say, $100 to the owner. The owner then gives that to the employees, the staff, the gardener, the housekeeper, and then that person then goes to the grocery store. And if it's a local grocery store like Pukalani Superette or Mana, then that store gives it to their staff or gives it to a local supplier. And then it just keeps going 7 times. So if you take 300 million, you multiply it by 7, you've got $2.1 billion, and that's all local money, Maui people. So I think that's really a good thing. Now the other issue would be transient vacation rentals, and that's a different issue. That's more an economic issue. That's more about that the money that is brought in from these properties can help the people working at them. I'm not as concerned with the people owning them. Sometimes it's a family that needs to go off the island for several years. Sometimes it's someone who's buying a property and they want it for their retirement, and they're going to buy it anyway, and it's just going to sit empty. So I think it's actually going to help the economy, which is, as we can see, faltering. I mean, this could get worse and worse and worse. So we have to, like for instance, there was an example over at Keavakapu Beach the other day where the Planning Commission declined the application and said, now this $9 million property can be used for affordable housing. Well, that's just not very realistic. It's not going to be used for affordable housing. Either it'll sit empty, or the owner will sell it to someone even richer than them. And it's not going to help us, Maui residents. It's not going to help the economy. I think it would be good to have a one owner, one property rule, just to discourage too much speculation, because we don't want people, buying lots of properties with that in mind. But I think if it's kept in a reasonable amount, I think it is important, and it's helping our economy. Stofers Wailea, they are building a, over 200 unit condo hotel where people that don't live here already, a property that isn't already built, they're going to build them for people to have that opportunity. And to me, that's not fair. There's already people living here, and we need to support who's here first. We need to support our local residents first. So I think, and tourists need an option. And we just need to encourage low impact economy, and we need to encourage our local entrepreneurs. I was at a conference the other day put on by the planning department of the Hawaii Congress of Planning Officials, and one of the keynote speakers was saying that we need to unleash the creativity of entrepreneurs. And that's us. That's our creativity, our intelligence. And the planning department needs to, be a little more flexible and maybe allow a little bit of seeming chaos, because we want to be creative. Many of us want to do our passion, and that includes home businesses. And if the county made everybody that had a home business get commercial space, there isn't enough. So there just isn't enough. And we have a limited supply of real estate. So I think it makes more sense that if you already are paying rent or paying a mortgage on or have bought it outright, a property, use it during the daytime. Don't run off to town and leave it empty. So I think it's time to start being creative and using our resources wisely. And speaking of resources, I am very much a strong proponent of renewable energy. The federal government, Department of Energy, has made an agreement with the state of Hawaii to become 70% renewable energy by 2030. And if we do that, that is going to help us a lot. And one way we could actually help the economy at the same time is we could retrain some of our workers. Construction is slowing down. Some of the agricultural companies are laying people off. Retrain those people to implement green collar workforce. And I think that's a way that we can get people to work and make Maui more sustainable, keep our beauty, keep our air clean, keep our water clean.
You have no opinions, I can hear. It's perfect. I don't even have to ask you questions because you've got a lot of passion. I can feel that. That's great. You know, to me, probably the most important thing when someone is on council, like I say, is what you're already showing, that you're involved and you want to talk out issues and stuff. Are there any things that are going on now that you feel you would want to change or be a force to make any changes? I'm just curious if there's anything that's going on that specifically has struck a chord where you'd like to get in there to make something different at all?
Well, like I said, the zoning. The zoning right now, one of the previous planning directors told me that if they enforced against all zoning violations, the beaches would be completely full of homeless people. The bottom line is, it costs a lot to live here. Many of us are struggling. It is very expensive to live here. So people are doing what they can. That includes Kahului, that includes haiku, that includes kihei. People are doing what they can to get the most people in the space to keep the rents up, to pay the mortgages. So we need to look at the reality of the situation. To me, laws are there to protect the greater good of the people. They're not there for people to have to like twist themselves into. So I would like to change the laws to make it so that it helps the people. So I would just do an assessment, you know, maybe we need to allow increased density in certain areas. I mean, we're talking about that the new plan, that the new subdivisions, we're going to have increased density. Maybe we need increased density in the already existing properties because that's what the people are doing. And this is not 30, 40 years ago when living was cheaper. It's expensive now. So I would actually want to get in there and look at all the zoning laws. And for instance, with farming, here's another issue. On agricultural land, the purpose of the Ag Land Act was to promote farming. But I think sometimes the laws that were made didn't take into account how things have changed. For instance, it's presently not legal to sell produce on your TMK, on your property, that was not actually produced on your TMK. Now, that takes away the economy of scale. Let's say I have a farm and I have 6 buddies in the neighborhood who have small farms, and we want to have a little farmer's market, a little stand. Nobody wants to sit at a stand all day. You can't, you got to either farm or do your other job that you're doing. So to make things more possible that we can do more huis and make it so that cooperation is actually legal, because right now it's not. And like I said, I don't think the intent was to eliminate that, but we need to make it so that that is more legal. And for instance, another issue, the Haimaili Community Garden. That's an excellent project. MLNP has donated the land, they're donating a staff member to come and work, they're donating the water, but the water rates, because they're not able to get not able to get ag water rates because it's not a commercial venture, they're having to pay residential rates, and they're going to have to pass that on to the participants. So something that could be a free service that could help anybody in the upcountry area or wherever, but more conveniently to have their own little garden plot, now they have to pay for it. And so things like that. And I don't think the water department made that rule thinking, oh, we want to keep, community gardens out, but the rule was made for supporting agriculture, but they just didn't think, oh, What about community gardens? So things like that. So I would want to go through the rules, the laws, the ordinances, and make sure that things really support community endeavors, community efforts. Because right now, a farmer has to go all the way to either Ka'ahumanu Center or Maui Mall to sell their produce, instead of doing it right in their own neighborhood. So I think that's something that really needs to be changed. And on the issue of Kahului, the harbor is important. Now I know the harbor is run by the state, but I'll just give my opinions, which is I think the cruise ships originally were brought over here from Lahaina because there was a lot of ships and they wanted to spread it out. Right now that's not necessary anymore. And I don't think tourists are saying, oh, I'd really love to go to Kahului. Kahului is not really set up as a tourist town. Tourists want to go to Lahaina. That's set up for tourists. So I would say move the cruise ships over there, allow the local canoe paddling clubs, the surfers, the fishermen to use the Kahului harbor, and not take away that because of the cruise ships. And also freight. You know, we need to make sure that we have our freight coming in. We need our basic goods. Until we start growing more of our own food, which is of course a goal, we need to make sure we get that. And also all of our other consumer goods. We need to make sure that that comes to us.
Well, one thing I know about the Kahului Harbor, the surfers will tell you, there are plenty of sharks. So it's not exactly a swimming hole unless we...
Yes.
But
you got to be careful of the sharks.
That's right. Don't step on them; they'll bite you. Now, there's so many different areas and subjects that we could cover. I'm just gonna, you've been good at sort of picking up issues as we're going. Any other issues you'd like to address? Because I'm enjoying the fact that as we're doing this, I don't even need to ask you questions. You sort of have a lot of things that you're already passionate about. And
Right.
anything else that's on your mind? Because I can see there's things you want to share.
Well, like I said about diversified agriculture, I didn't go into that in detail, but that's a passion of mine. And I co-founded a group called the Maui Sustainable Farming Coalition. And that's the goal of this group, is to really support small farmers, because there are organizations that are already working with the large landowners, and that is important, but it's also important to support the small farms and to have, like I said, to have huis, to make sure that small farmers could have farm stands. I think agritourism would actually help many small farmers. I think having value-added plants, so that when, let's say, I was talking to someone the other day about Maui onions, the Maui onion growers. There was a lot of onions produced, and there was all of a sudden, because it was the season, the market was glutted with Maui onions. Everybody in Maui, all the restaurants and the stores had bought, even neighbor islands had bought, but there was just extra. We could pickle them. We could process them in some way that we could then, store them and ship them. That's obviously why canning came into being, because everything comes to fruition at once and you can't eat it all. And then there's other lean times when you don't have them. So even though we have, luckily, this beautiful climate where it's nice climate all year round, certain crops come to bear fruit at certain times. So I think that would be another thing also to promote diversified agriculture, because officials in Maui County have been talking about diversified agriculture since 1967, and we still import 90% of our food. And
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy, and it's getting scary, because as we know, who knows what's going to happen with the boats and the planes. It's not secure. It's not stable anymore. It's iffy. So we need to make sure that we can support that. And I think another thing we need more money into the budget to support all of these great ideas that we all have. One idea would be a $5 a day rental car tax. I think the tourists, if they could drive smoothly and not get stuck in traffic jams on their vacation, would be fine with that.
How would we do that?
Well, we would just levy.
I mean, how would they not get stuck
You know,
in
that's an
traffic?
excellent point, because it would have to be a local tax, and I would have to check into whether that's something that could be done at a county level. I know taxation generally, as you have a good point, is a state issue.
Well, Joe Suki once told me, the way to get the roads clear is if the price of gas goes so high, people start using mass transportation. We live in a funny society where people don't seem to voluntarily progress to where they should. You have to sort of put them in a corner. I think we got the
Right.
corner. The prices are high, everything's
Right.
crazy.
Right.
Maybe our transportation corridor becomes more important because the
Right.
costs are high.
Yeah.
So maybe we're at a point where we're going to see
Yeah.
some of that stuff happen, hopefully, with good leadership. And I guess that's why you want to be there.
And the Maui bus is excellent. I mean, Roberts Hawaii is doing a wonderful job. They're increasing routes, is going up more than people even expected. So that's a good step in the right direction. And the light rail, but like I said, also bring more money in to pay for some of these improvements. Because the light rail is not going to be cheap. I mean, that's going to cost money. So we need to start bringing money to improve our roads.
Well, maybe we can have golden highways in Wailea. I'm fooling. Everything is, we have a very rich crowd and we have a very poor crowd that serves those rich people, huh? So it's an interesting dilemma that we face here on the island because we've grown now so fast. And what do you think we're going to see next happen here? You think we're going to see a period where people are going to start to address those things we need for local people, or you think we're going to see more of the same?
I mean, it depends on who gets in council. And speaking of rich and poor, one way the county primarily gets its budget from property tax. Now, we have the circuit breaker. A lot of people aren't aware of this, so I want to make sure people know about it. It's a really good program, and what it is if your property taxes are too high, you can go and apply for this, and then I think it's actually 2%. You don't have to pay more than 2% of your annual income in property tax. So let's just say somebody lives in McKenna, they're a Kama'aina family, they've been there many generations, people are building very expensive homes, the property taxes are going up. They can claim the circuit breaker, and then they only have to don't have to pay more than 2% of their annual income. Now there's a bit of a loophole that I think needs to be closed in that is some of the people that are quite wealthy don't have a lot of an income, but they have assets and they have, huge retirement funds. So I think that's a loophole that needs to be closed. But as far as it is a good way for people to not get taxed out of their homes. But on the issue of bringing more taxes in, I don't think we can just overall raise taxes on the people here because most people are already very stressed with the high cost of living. Yes, our property taxes aren't that high, but the otherwise cost of living is extremely high, so we shouldn't increase that. One way to do it, to bring more money in, would be to have a different property tax rate for properties purchased at over $2 million. Not that have gone up in comparables or assessment, but that are actually purchased at over $2 million. The people that can afford those are generally people who can afford a higher property tax rate. Some of those people are going to be from the mainland and they pay a higher property tax rate, so that's going to be normal. So I think that would be one way to tax those who can afford it. There's not punishment, it's just basically those who can afford it compared to those who can't. And like you just said, there's a lot of people working here. It's very hard to work here, make enough money to purchase a home that is for sale here. And so we need to start creating measures to distribute the wealth a little bit more fairly.
Have you any plans for where your victory celebration is going to be? I'm fooling. I was just going to say you want to invite all the people that are viewing this, not only to vote for you, but to come down to your victory party.
I want to have a good party. I want to have a party and at some public venue, and the way to get into the party would be to show a voter stub. And I want to encourage everyone to vote. You may think it doesn't matter, but in the council especially, some of these seats are won by, maybe 1,000 votes. Well, 1,000 votes is not that many people. So it's really important to go out there. And if you think you might be busy that day, do absentee ballot, absentee voting, because then you just fill it out at your leisure, send it in, and it's done. And it's the most secure because it's paper, so there's no possibility of any kind of errors. I will not be in the primary, which is good. It's because there's only 2 people in the race that I'm in for Kahului, and it's nonpartisan, so I'm not on the primary ballot, but I will be on the general election ballot November 4th. So that would be the same day that you go to vote for the President of the United States, for your Congress people, for senators, and for all of the county council. And as Jason said in the beginning, everybody can vote for every council seat. It's just at-large voting. It's just an odd system we have here.
And what's
That's how it
important
is.
about that, of course, is you don't only have 1 representative, you have 9 representatives.
Exactly.
So if you have issues, you can go, if you're living in Lahaina or you're living in Lanai and you feel that Netra is the one that could be a champion for what you want to be talking about, she's there for you. That's a very important thing.
And that is my job, as I see it, to be an advocate. And when I worked for Women Helping Women, I was the women's advocate. And children's mental health, and when I worked for Maui Youth and Family Services, I worked in the homes of families that were at risk of losing one of their children to either foster care, or if it was a youth, going to detention. So I worked in the family in the home with the family. And so that is my profession, is to be an advocate. And like I said, I will have a completely open door policy. I really want to hear from everyone what your issues are. If I haven't mentioned something that you think is really important, then I want to hear about that. And one more issue I wanted to bring up is drug abuse. I'm very, very concerned about drug abuse in Maui County. It is a very ICE abuse. It's a very big problem. And one program that I've been involved with is Drug Court. I've spoken at their graduation. I want to help them with their transitional housing, because they have graduates who have gone through the program, they've gotten themselves clean and sober, they're on the right track, they're in with the good crowd. But if they don't have housing when they come out, if they can't afford housing, or if they just get housing where there's drug addicts around, they are vulnerable. It's kind of like a delicate, vulnerable stage, and they need every support they can. So if there's some kind of traditional housing with structure and rules, because people in this situation need that. They need those boundaries and there's that rules and structure, and then they have the freedom to live their life and do their job. But I think I'm going to work with them and help them find that. So I'm really a champion of drug court and of affordable housing.
Well, I think I'm going to come back in here because we only have a few minutes left. You're easy to interview because you've got things you want to say. I think it's very important that you come in with a passion, which is really terrific, because we need that. Sometimes I look at those that are sitting up there in the council and they look bored, and I don't know how they could be bored. There's so much to be doing.
Oh yeah. No, I'm dedicating my life to this, helping Maui County. That's what I want to do. I want to use my education, my experience, my passion, my caring for Maui, my love for Maui and our people, to actually do something, to actually champion the people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to be sure that everyone knows, again, I stress it because it's amazing that they don't remember. No matter where you live in Maui County, no matter which island you live on, you can vote for Netra Halperin if you choose to, because you vote for everyone. She's your representative too.
That's right.
I mean, that is something that is just, when I ran, it was 1994, and people thought we had district voting. We were fighting for district voting at the time and all kinds of things, but no, we all vote for everyone. And so we have 9 representatives.
That's right.
Do we have all women? Are there any men left up there? It's very different than the national scene. Here, we've honored women in our local elections, I'm glad to say.
That's true. We have a
We have a
female
lot of
governor,
female
a female
champions.
mayor. We have, well, right now we have 3 women in council, but Michelle Anderson has decided not to run again. So Gladys Bisa is running again. Joanne Johnson is running again. There's several other women, Kai Nishiki, Lucienne Dene, they're also running.
And we
so-
have a female mayor. We all know that
That's
one,
true.
right?
That's true. We do. So,
That's right. So
I
that's
would
good.
say I would say Maui is realizing the value of having women in leadership positions. So I think.
Are you ready to run for vice president? I'm laughing. I maybe shouldn't express my opinion too boldly, but I'm just amazed at our national elections this time.
It's
an
interesting.
amazing time that we live in.
It is an amazing time. It is, and so it's up to you, the voters, to distinguish fluff from substance. It's up to you to decide, is this person sincere? Is this person actually care about me, my family, my community? And that's, I trust you have that discrimination to see that.
That's right. Well, I'm glad that you took the time to be with us here.
Well, thank you so much. I really
It was
appreciate
my
it.
pleasure to provide this space so that you could get some of your ideas and issues out there. That's the one thing I want to see more of, and you guys should be demanding it of the council and of wherever you demand it of. We need more exposure of the people that we elect before
That's
we
right.
elect them,
That's right.
because it's really nuts that people vote without knowing who they're voting for.
Right.
So I'm very happy to provide this space, especially to someone who is as passionate about doing it as you are.
Well, thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
I
and
very much appreciate it.
now where I never saw you there on the island, I bet I'll see you everywhere.
Everywhere you go, there you'll see my poster. You'll see my picture on my poster.
That's right. Much more beautiful in person than the poster, though. I mean, we got to get your
Thank
printer.
Thank you.
Fix his ink.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for joining us here.
Okay, thank you so much, Jason. I think you're providing a very important public service here. I
Oh, my
appreciate it.
pleasure. And thank you for joining us. Hope we'll
Thank you.
have you come back, and you can see this again if you want, because you can actually put it up on your own TV and watch it, because we have that XTV. Isn't that a
Right.
fun?
Yeah.
We here locally have such amazing services if we know
Yeah,
what they
it's
are.
true. Akaku
And that's
is
one
doing
of them.
an excellent
Our
job.
public access television system has really been a blessing around here. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Have a beautiful day. Aloha.
Aloha. Mahalo, thank you.
No matter where you go, no matter what you do, take that Maui style with you. Cause if you ain't Maui styling, you just living on an island. Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 There is sunshine in your heart. It's been with you from the start. Lift your head, look to the heavens, then you will feel brand new again. Don't stop me now, Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 Reach out your hand and help each other. Your mother, your father, your sister and brother. There is love in this family. Pick yourself up and get on your feet. Don't stop me now, Maui styling, don't let me down. 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 Makena styling. country style, compost style.